Bernie Sanders is one of the few people that have been outspoken about what this government is doing as far as not being the resistance, but being the assistance. Right now, as of the recording of this, the impeachment hearings are going on. They're debating back and forth with each other. To my knowledge, there's going to be a longer debate that's going to be happening for the next few hours. So we're not going to know anything more by the time this stream is over. My guess is it will pass the House. They'll do nothing in the Senate. That's my guess. That's likely what's going to happen. That's what most people are predicting, which means this is basically just a symbolic act. Trump can still run in 2020. This is just, and it's just been, this whole impeachment thing. I feel like, and I know a lot of us, a lot of the people that watch this show kind of feel this way too. I feel like I'm the guy who just can't enjoy, like everyone else is enjoying the party, and you're like, no, this isn't the way. A lot of people are really getting their hopes up that this is gonna, be some forceful thing, and I just don't see. I think it's just purely a symbolic thing. A lot of Trump's financial corruption, which is what they should be looking into, they're not even touching that anyway. Why? For a number of reasons. One, because impeachments usually don't tread into that territory, and two, because Democrats are complicit in that stuff. The way Trump's been enriching himself through office, and it's so on the surface and just right in our face, it's insane. But they're not going to touch that because they're complicit in it. Democrats are complicit in that. They do the same stuff, and so do Republicans. Our entire government does that stuff. So instead, they're going to spend weeks upon weeks dissecting a phone call that, as Aaron Matei says, and I think he puts it great, yeah, it was an inappropriate phone call. Trump did something inappropriate. In other news, it's Tuesday. But they're just going to it's probably going to pass the House. It's going to get shot down in the Senate. And then that's it. And then, Democrats will be able to say, well, see, we're resisting him. Are you? Because while all this was going on, you passed his Pentagon budget. You squashed a vote on net neutrality. You gave him the Patriot Act. You gave him a new NAFTA. And he'll be able to wave that around in 2020. He'll be like, look, my colleagues were trying to impeach me, and despite that, we got all this done. And that's already what Trump's already parroting that stuff. He already is. He's already saying, look at all we accomplished. And he'll be able to point to his tax cut. He'll be able to point to all the budgets he got through. He'll be able to point to all the stuff I just mentioned. And he'll be able to say, and this was while they were trying to impeach me. So we'll see what happens. But Bernie Sanders is addressing that stuff, not what resistance to Trump looks like. Bernie Sanders rips the Senate for passing a $738 billion Pentagon budget. We need to fundamentally change our priorities as a nation, said Bernie Sanders. So Senator Bernie Sanders condemned passage of a massive $738 billion Pentagon spending bill in the U.S. Senate on Tuesday, declaring this is not what resistance to Donald Trump looks like. The final vote in the Senate, 86 in favor, 8 voting against, and 6 members, including Sanders out on the campaign trail, who did not vote. Also not voting were the other 3 U.S. senators still running as 2020 candidates, Warren, Booker, and Klobuchar. Having already cleared the U.S. House, the bill is now heading to President Trump's desk, and of course, he's going to sign it. By the way, here's a friendly reminder that this article reminds us of. Keep in mind how much the United States spends on defense. We spend more on defense than China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, India, the UK, France, Japan, Germany. I said German. German. We spend more on defense than the German language. The German language spends money on defense. We spend more than that entire language. Germany, South Korea, and Brazil combined. That's a fun way to say it. Combined. That's how much we spend on defense. That's how much we spend on defense. And no one's talking about this stuff. No one's talking about all this stuff that's been going on while impeachment has been amplified. There's another meme on Twitter. I retweeted it. I saw it from Shoe on Head, where it's like there's one person at a podium and they're saying, "Hey, we just unveiled a bunch of war crimes in Afghanistan, a bunch of Afghan war crimes The papers have been released. They've been lying to us for 20 years, and there's no microphones in front of that person. And then there's a bunch of microphones. Hey, impeachment's happening. Impeachment's happening. And even if Trump resigns, okay, so then we get President Pence, which is infinitely worse and scarier than Donald Trump. And it's going to be a tougher climb for 2020 as far as removing the GOP from power. It's going to be a tougher climb because let's say Trump does resign or the Senate acts and let's say Trump is out of the picture. Okay, so the GOP is going to run someone like a Mike Pence, or let's say they run someone like a John Kasich. Let's say the GOP, keep in mind, the Democratic Party, there is no entity that I know of in the world that is better as far as political parties with power go at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory than the Democratic Party. I don't think it exists in any other democratic experiment. They are superb at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And as far as the victories that they have had, at least in my lifetime, you know how if you're given a true and false exam, and if you just guess false for every question, you're bound to get some of them right? Those are the Democrats' victories. Like, it's like, yeah, when there's only two choices, you're bound to win a little bit. When people are just so weary of the other side, you're bound to get it right when it's just inevitable, when it's almost impossible for it not to happen. And that's when Democrats win. Because we have a two-party system, a party that is neo-fascist and a party that is right-wing, and a party that offers no ideas, as Lewis Black put it so greatly, a party that offers no ideas, and a party that offers bad ideas. That's our two-party system. So let's say Trump's out of the picture. The GOP has time to distance themselves from Trump. Oh, this guy didn't know what he was doing. He was just unfit for office. This was crazy. We're getting back to what the GOP is all about, and blah, 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 and they use their talking points. Let's say they run someone like a John Kasich, someone who will definitely win Ohio, and there's a good chance that guy will win Pennsylvania too. Now all of a sudden it becomes way tougher in 2020. I think even Bernie, first of all, I think if the nominee's not Bernie, the GOP's retaining power anyway, whether it's Trump or anybody else. You know, whether it's Trump or somebody else, the GOP retains power if Bernie's not the nominee. And if Bernie is the nominee, he'd have a way harder time beating a John Kasich than a Donald Trump. So we'll see what happens with this. You know, like I said, I predict it'll get through the House. The House will be in favor, and then it'll get squashed in the Senate, and then it'll just be used as a political football, as impeachment has pretty much always been used. But at least some people are making noise about, look at all the stuff you're doing in the interim. $738 billion. $738 billion for the Pentagon budget. That's more than they asked for, by the way. It's even more than they asked for. What kind of resistance gives Trump this type of budget, gives him spying powers, gives him back the Patriot Act, gives him a new NAFTA that he'll be able to wave around in 2020? And as we talked about on this show, it's just as bad as the old NAFTA. There's a couple minor things where maybe it's not as bad, but it still screws over workers. Ugh, I need some more water. It still screws over workers. It still pads the pockets of the corporations and the 1%. It's still a horrible plan. What kind of resistance gives him all those things while simultaneously screaming that he is some treasonous traitor? Do you maybe think this is all a game? This is all theater? And the people who are involved, by the way, are getting rich from this. Adam Schiff has padded his own pockets via this whole thing by capitalizing on people who are hurting. People are hurting because of the Trump administration. The Trump administration is terrible. No one's disputing that. But the way to beat them is at the ballot box. And it's kind of frustrating when there's just been this mass distraction going on. Meanwhile, they're doing all these things to support him. This is simultaneously going on. And you know, you see all these people celebrating in the streets about impeachment, and it's like, you know, if I talk to most of those people, I'd find that I agree with them on 90-some% of things. But then it's like, again, you feel like the dude spoiling the party when you're like, yeah, but look at all this stuff they're actually doing. Look at all this stuff that they're doing. Look at what they gave them, the new NAFTA, the Patriot Act, the Pentagon budget. They squashed a vote on net neutrality even. They're doing all these things. They're assisting him. He's going to be able to use this in 2020. The Senate's probably not going to be able to do anything about this. They're probably not going to do anything. And sometimes you just feel like you're just screaming down a well. And I know a lot of us feel that way. And man, I'll tell you what. I mean, I certainly know the drawbacks of social media, right? I mean, it's, you know, there's studies out there. It's not really good for our mental health and whatnot. But if it wasn't for Twitter, I think I would feel completely alone in this. You know, I think if all I saw was what the corporate media is talking about, but, you know, you go on Twitter and you see that, you know, a lot of other people share these frustrations. And you know who shares these frustrations the most? Are undecided voters, are people who are on the cusp. I've talked to a couple people who are kind of undecided, and a lot, they're saying those same things. They're like, look, the Senate's not going to do anything. This is such a waste of time and a waste of taxpayer money. And so those people become even more frustrated by Beltway theater and Beltway politics as usual. So now they're either going to stay home or they're going to just vote for Trump again to say, screw this. This is ridiculous. I'm just going to vote for Trump again. You know, I mean, but again, the Democratic establishment is kind of in a rock and a hard place right now as far as they're concerned, because if Trump wins, they look bad. But for Trump to lose, well, it's going to take a Bernie Sanders, and that's going to disrupt the apple cart. That's going to make the donors upset. So you're in a rock and a hard place. Do you upset your base completely, or do you upset your donors? Which one do you pick? Because you can't have both. Well, here's a way maybe we can have both. We impeach the guy in the House. We look like we're fighting. And then, hey, maybe if the nominee ends up being someone else, we can at least say we handled the corruption that was Trump. By the way, Trump is no different from any other member of the GOP politically. All of Trump's policies are just GOP policies. Other members of the GOP are just a little more subtle about it. They're a little more subtle while they're carrying on endless war. They're a little more subtle when they're screwing over poor people. Oh, by the way, that's another thing Trump got to do while this was going on. Took food stamps away from 750,000 people. So this is not what a resistance to Trump looks like. Bernie Sanders said it. It's true. In fact, it's an understatement. This is not what any type of resistance looks like. This is theater.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and